Mhm. Meditating on oh, meditating on formulations. So I got the light off because yeah, I'm relaxing. I'm trying to get some sleep. Well, I was sleeping. I was meditating, counting sub frequencies and configurations and what frequencies are perceived as being felt, what frequencies are being perceived as heard. So you kind of when you generate a sine wave, low frequency tone, depending on the where. Well, actually, it depends on firstly the room. How is it constructed? Is it wooden floor? Um, is it a concrete floor? Is it a concrete floor with a wooden floor on a concrete surface? Is it um, of course, like a brick or plasterboard, or mostly brick, um, say, with um, maybe a specific um, designed wooden frame that goes around the room. So then, when the seating is placed on the surf on the coupled to the surface, as well as when entering the room and standing within the room, and you feel everything because it takes me back simply to specific CIC UCI High Wycombe, and when entering the room and then just being transported into a different sense of um, sound reproduction, playback, where you feel all the low frequency. Well, how much of it I don't know. Be interesting to go back in time with an RTA analyzer, and probably what I would see would, you know, but it's like, I would ask the question, how was this designed? You know, how was it designed to to what it is present? Why is it doing this? Because I've already seen this same movie and wasn't quite getting the same reproduction sensation as what I'm getting here. Now I can recall, and so I could play the movie, um, maybe the first how many minutes of the opening of Arachnophobia, until mostly all the mostly the soundtrack calms down, sort of thing. Well, what is calming down? How do you define calming down? Uh, I think it might be about 15 minutes. I mean, okay, so I'll go with 15 minutes. Um, I'd have to put the actual laser disc on because that would be a reference, demo reference signature material. Because even though the DVD is okay, oddly the DVD, if it's from the if the mix is from the um, 70 6-track stripe, it'd be a 35, image sort of thing. But it's like they take the 6 track, or they use um you're in for a great disappointment because it's like Atmos. Atmos is like how often are the overheads used? How often is the LFE point one used on arachnophobia? Very little. Very little. Most of the base energy is covered over the typical LCR and probably a little percentage in the mono discrete surround channel, but the LFE is just like occasionally you get an added boom boom, and it's just used just probably oh gosh, probably less than a couple of minutes on arachnophobia. So it's like Atmos, and it's like how often are the overheads used? Oh, crikey, 2 hour running time, and they were only used for a whole running time, a couple of minutes. That's like very weird. Weird, weird. And you think in reality, we to experienced listeners analyzing sound and then thinking how much of it is, well, the impulses of frequencies and sounds and reflections that we hear, and then we talk about it. If one person was standing next to me and, you know, then we should more or less experience or hear pretty much the same. Not 100% because one person would be slightly to the left or over to the right of me, or maybe behind, or slightly, it depends, but not exactly in the same dimensional space. But more or less, we hear more or less, yeah, I heard that. I heard that. Yeah, the same. And unless and depending on oh the where what I'm trying to get to is like if it's outside, you probably only hear the sound and you don't feel it, even though um depending on how close to a source or whatever it is that you get near to, and then you then might say perceive the feel of the sound. You hear a lot of it on your ears, and but how much percentage of it do you actually feel? Um, hmm. Because I'm trying to sort of like think, how many different configurations could I come up with in a room with um, airborne speakers, so speakers, and then low frequency transducers. How many of those would I need in the floor? Because the floor is where the base sub bass transducers should be located, not just in the seats. Because when you decouple yourself from a seat, you don't feel it. That's it. End of story. No if, no but, no debate, no voting on it. You just don't feel it, perceive it, and you probably only hear and then you're hearing most of the bass that's coming from whatever speaker in the room or whatever sub bass speaker that it be, and how much of the bass that is being felt. I think starting with sine wave tones and just going through, which can be a very boring thing, going through sine wave low frequency tones, not to mention all the other technical things that you got to what you got to check for is any rattle, buzzing noises, and eliminating that, and because you don't want to play a speaker too loud just to show off, because you're only going to feel a little bit of the sound from that speaker. No if, no but, no debate, no vote. You're just going to only feel a little percentage, and you're going to hear most of it on your ear. And you're going to think, bloody hell, is it necessary to have it that bloody loud? You know, because your mind, or to an experienced person like myself, very experienced I am, I'm going to be thinking, I'm looking at the scene in this movie or whatever it is, and I'm thinking, there's something wrong, you know, I need to feel more of it. And so that's where the bass transducers come into action, and where and how they're designed into the room. If I were to play some sine waves, generate sine wave tones. Well, I could play if it was a test disc, but I'll be wasting my time with a test disc. It's better to generate the tones, because then I can just go through any speaker in the room at my discretion. I like that word, discretion. um, and then just check randomly, go from seat to seat, checking it out actually, because a microphone at the end of the day, shall I turn the light on for anyone that's in the dark here? Woo! It's getting near Halloween, isn't it? Do 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 do. The night he came home. Oh, and he turned the light on. Ah! Woo! I've got to get some sleep. I really do. I want to go fish and chips today, but I've got a delivery later in the afternoon, so I'll probably call it, because I really need to get some sleep for Twitter. Though I've been meditating, I've been in bed, because of my health condition and shit. I haven't been in the room for about, I don't know, a few days. I don't know. I went in there sometime early this morning, but I only turned something on, and actually I'm just going to go in there and just turn it off. I don't know why I went in there, because the system has been sat in the cold more or less for 4 days, I think. So I checked the temperature in the room, and it was about 18 Celsius. I thought, that's cool, that's okay. None of this hot heat wave. I'm just going to turn this off. Melanie. Come down. Come down. Yeah. I'll just turn the altitude off. It takes 15 seconds to turn that thing off. A regular AVR only takes probably about 3 seconds. Yeah. Takes about 3 seconds, I think. Well, depending. I think some other AVRs probably take about 1 second. Well, actually, yeah, it depends. Yeah. It's like what laser projectors, or what video projectors turn off instantly. Whereas the other type, they used they had to have a program just to run for um, maybe less than a minute, just under a minute, or maybe a minute for the cooling fan for the lamp. You know, because if you took the lamp out of those projectors, even though they're tiny, and then exposed it to the temperature out in the ambient temperature, uh, chances are it'll probably explode in your face. Yeah, never mess around with lamps that are under. Well, yeah, especially when they're xenon lamps. Yeah, they're like time bombs. Anyway, so I'm just thinking of all configurations and what frequencies you feel. So if I play, go through the sine wave tones on the left channel, what I can feel and hear, and then observe on the RTA analyzer, even though the microphones are not very intelligent. Even if they say Trinov and the microphone's clever and it's three dimension, all this three dimension. Let me turn the light back. A three dimension. That's a load of BS. Really. In some way, I think it's just like any other ordinary microphones, which you can set up, say, four of them, and set them up in this configuration, or you can set up five or six and arrange the microphones in a certain way so that you know because if you take a single microphone and you looking at pink noise or whatever and you move in its position, you can see what's going on, and then you move its position over here and then start orientating it and moving it around, and you can see what's going on with certain low frequencies, bass middle frequencies, middle highs and high frequencies, and you can see what's going on. And it's exactly more or less the same when if you listen with just one ear, put an earplug in one side, and then of course, you got to put the microphone over in the same more or less position, and then just start moving around and listening. And that's more or less what you hear is what you see on the RTA analyzer. So, like I say again, more or less what you hear is what you would see on the RTA analyzer. It's not like we got a lead that we can plug in the back of our neck like a matrix, and this is going to feel a little weird. Um, and you'll be able to actually see what each individual's hearing frequency response is like. That'd be interesting. Because they say it rolls off, and then you'd be able to see what the actual roll off is, and then be able to then adjust the high frequencies until but what is our hearing? Our actual hearing range still got a slight roll off, a slight drop, slightly? I'm not saying is it totally flat, like you're 10 years old and you're really into audio. You got a flat response hearing. I don't think so. I think it would be still a little bit dipping down a bit. Um, Unlike a microphone is just a microphone. All microphones are completely different. They all got different frequency response curves. Um, some microphones are for calibration, some are you for vocal, and they got a certain range, and they start to roll off at a certain, because there's no point trying to have that microphone, even though you could use a microphone calibration one and use it for a vocal. Not that it's there is any lot of point or logic to it because we can't reproduce high frequencies. We can only go our voice speech could only go up to a certain range, and then that's it. If we try forcing ourselves to do something, yeah, we'd probably cause ourselves maybe some internal injury or something, something temporary. But if we keep on doing it and doing it all the time, it'd probably be permanent. And then, yeah, so yeah, we can only do a certain thing. We're not really, there's only certain things or species, birds or such, that can tweet very high notes or such, and we can't really do that. We can try and make or articulate sounds like that can only go so loud, or exhale, inhaling through the nose, or make a sound like that. And then it gives a certain response on the RTA analyzer. But when you do something like that, it almost goes pretty. It has a slight, but it almost it reaches up to about almost 20k, which is probably why my cats find it sometimes annoying. He found it. I think Magic. He didn't like it. He didn't like that at all. Didn't like me making that noise sound. Frequencies, what you feel and what and then like bass shakers. Like, I'm trying to sort of work this out into I'm not sure if it could work out like it knits itself together like making a jumper, and you're knitting, and you're putting all the cotton, the wool into the craft of making a jumper or such with certain color patterns on it. Because still, when sound comes out from a speaker, it just spreads out in all directions. When it's coupled to when a bass shaker is coupled to a floor surface, not that I don't think there's many floor surfaces. I like to, what's that song? I like to, what is that song from the? Yeah. I like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony. I'd like to buy the world a Coke and keep it company. That's the real thing. I don't know. There's so about you know. Well, I had a Coke earlier, but I finished it. You know, it's the original taste. Like Star Wars. Originals only. I'm on a Fanta at the moment. I'm on a Fanta, and I got a little bit of the original. Well, this is the original. um, this is just something invented. You know. hmm It's interesting. The can design is the same, as the. Oh, hang on, is it the same? It's almost the same. Now let's have a look underneath. Yeah. Yeah, same design. Same design, only a different printing on the don't they, isn't it owned by the Pepsi Cola? I don't know who owns what now. I mean, it's hard to tell, isn't it? But there's a degree of water in that, and but it's carbonated. But that's the real thing. It's been in manufacturing since for billions of years. Okay. Got a very unusual taste buds there. A bit of Fanta and water. Um, yeah, it's okay. My sugar levels are okay. I checked my sugar levels last night. They were around about 11 point something, which is not too bad. It's a little over the 8, which it should be between 4 and 8. But I can if I filter it down with water or such, I can filter it down. So anyway, yeah, it's the same. It's like filtering like frequencies in the room. And what do you filter? That is the tricky thing, because what I'm getting at is very bloody complicated, and I don't think Trinov even go into this subject matter of talking about something. They just assume that everybody's home theatre, home bloody theatre, and the seating and all this main listening position. What the bloody hell is that supposed to mean? Please speak English. There is no main listening position. You listen in the real world, it is pretty damn big outside. The scale of it is larger than your room, larger than our rooms, larger than a concert hall. And you're listening to real sound. It's not music, because we go out on a day basis. We don't hear music. We hear mostly sound, or call it sound effects. There ends the rant. Okay. The amount of music that we hear on a day basis is a tiny fraction percentage. Unless, of course, you happen to go somewhere where music's playing, but you're still going to hear conversation and things going on, blah, blah, blah. Um, so if I were to play a sine wave tone, I'm sat in a seat, and what if I get out the seat and I move forward a little bit near to the speaker that's generating the tone? And that tone, that sound tone, is mostly probably going to go a little directional, and then suddenly it's going to go maybe omnidirectional. It depends on what sine wave tone I'm generating. It's going to spread out both sides of my ear, and then I move in, and then until you get up really close, and then you think, depending on what SBL level or what level it's at, it's generating at, and then say I suddenly turn it down a little bit because I'm getting obviously a bit closer to it. I don't want to hear it blaring in my ear canal, because it wouldn't be blaring in my face. It's not like that sort of thing. See, a lot of people just have this, I think, this ego issue with their home theatres. They think that it must be bloody heard outdoors, from their basement, and it must be heard outside. No, not really. Not unless you got your room, unless your room is completely floored, and you can hear the outside world sound not in the same way as you would hear it if you're actually outside, which would be that sort of loudness. And then when you're indoors, you probably hear it maybe about that much. And then what you play or generate indoors would be about that loud. And the loudness to it, that sound out in the real world against traffic, oh, traffic's going to be like that, and your sound is going to be like that. um, I tell you, I don't know what it was. It was about a few years ago. There was someone across the road. I don't know. This was going on up to at least just past 12 o'clock at night, and it sounded like it was coming from someone's. I'm not sure what if there are any basements or anything across the road in one of these houses, but that's what it appeared. That's how it appeared, and I mean it was fucking loud. I mean, I'm about it's about I'm about probably about one, two, three, four. Hang on, let me see, 100, 200. Mm, I'm going to go for less than 300 foot. I'm going to go somewhere less than 300 foot on a slight diagonal angle. I mean, it was like band music. It was like it sounded like a real band, but who the fuck is rehearsing band music up to past bloody 12 o'clock in the early hours in the morning? It sounded like it was being generated for a PA system. I mean, bloody loud. I mean, I could hear like the horns and the drums. It was ridiculous. I can't imagine anyone nearby was so fucking pissed off would have gone banging on their door saying, "Hey, do you not realise what time it is?" Yeah, so that's sort of band. You get like real drums and you play them. That's a real instrument in real three dimension that you can walk around and how it's going to sound versus a speaker. And you're going to think, well, I think the drums win and the recording, it's okay. Mm, it's not doing brilliant on these speakers because their dynamic range and their bandwidth is not as good as probably using PA speakers. Um, and then you still got to do a little bit more analyzing to think, is it similar sensation or is it different because of the way the speaker's designed, which is just a box and a speaker fitted on the front, a drum. You could just move around it. A drum is, the drums say like that's the drums. Yeah, you could just move all around it. You could walk around it. Everything. A speaker just sits there in a room, and it's only directional in certain frequencies in one way, and then low frequencies are wrongly directional. But drums only play at a certain frequency. They only play at certain frequencies when you play them and you monitor it on an RTA analyzer, and you know, they only do a certain frequency curve. Um, so it's interesting how I think and how everyone else is thinking, and very few other people think different. Everyone else wants to. I don't know. It's interesting reading a thread on Audio Science Review the other day. I didn't read it entirely because I found the whole thread completely boring because they're just following Dolby Labs specification speaker overhead layout, which is a scam, really. Um, because it's not really something that it's a bit of a gimmick. You can improve it. You can improve it and make it better than the stupid specification that it is. um, and plus, you could do a little bit more because there's only a certain amount that an or processor can do because they're following this stupid code of practice. And you read it, and then you think, I think I can make that a little bit better. I can improve on that. Um, yeah, it's the same. So if I generate sine wave tones on any of the overhead speakers, what frequencies can I feel realistically? And you think, well, I gotta take a little step back on that and pause and breathe. Because if it was an airplane, a jet airliner, you don't feel the frequency when a jet airliner's in mid-flight. You just don't. You just hear the sound. No if, no debating on about it. Just give it a break, give it a rest. You can only hear the sound. Um, so if I'm feeling it, I'm thinking, well, that seems a bit inaccurate. And I think, what frequencies am I feeling, and what frequencies am I not feeling? Because some sine wave tones you'll just about feel it in the seat, or if the room's got a wooden floor, you might perceive the feel of it slightly in the floor, and it depends what speaker, because the you generate a sine wave tone in any one of the overheads, one speaker at a time. They're all going to sound and feel or such a little different. They're not going to be identical. So it's like this whole bass wave thing forming. I think it's a little. Mm, yeah, I was thinking about that. I was just thinking about that. I need a few more audio. What do they call them? AES, Audio Engineering Society. AES, um, impedance modulators or such, to modulate the impedance from, what was it, this high impedance number down to a lower impedance, and then I can connect them on the Trinnov, and then do a reconfiguration on the Behringer DCXs, which is going to be pretty. Yeah, anyway, I'm not anywhere near that at the moment. I'm not in a hurry or rush. I've got waveforming, but you know what? I'm not excited about it. I'm not jumping on it. Everyone else is. um, yeah, I'm very least excited about. Um, because I'm just trying to think, what way is it doing this? Is it doing bass calculation frequencies going down from the front on the two speakers on the subs, and then going to the back, and then another one where it's going diagonal, and then diagonal on the other way, and to take all these calculations and do all the number crunching to um, get this almost ideal, I don't know, so if I were to play 50 hertz sine wave and then went from one seat over to the other, it should be almost the same. Whereas if I did that in the room as it is, it'll probably be different, and I'll think, scratching head, how do I get that tone to be identical? Because if I wear headphones and play that sine wave, I can move around anywhere in the room. It doesn't change. The tone stays the same on the headphones. But once it's airborne for a speaker, it it sounds like it's more louder over that side, less on this side, and oh, it's a little bit louder on this side at the back, but a little tiny less on the other side, and it's mm, yeah. Mm, yeah. I don't know about those subs. I don't know about those. I think those TCBs. I think I should have had two more of the same direct radiators placed at the back of the room, and um, um, hmm, hmm. I wonder if you could trick the waveform. So if I got, so if I got it all connected, I wonder if I could trick the microphone to the Trinov to the waveforming. I wonder if I can trick it. Well, I guess I'll find out when I could be asked to connect the because I've got to get at the back of it. I've got to connect up the figure out what I'm going to want to do, what I want to do with the rest of those. I think it's 8 or 9 more XLRs I've got to connect up. What I want to do with those, because how they go with the rest of this Atmos extra speakers around the room is um, pretty boring, considering some mixes, and because yeah, if I try and figure to use a different layout, because the Trinov's got other speaker layout configurations, which one I like to give it a give it a give it a listen, see what it's all about, what it can do, what it cannot do, and if what it cannot do, then try and explore that and try and make it to do something else, or make it do, you know. Yeah, wooden floors, wooden floors. So how many bass shakers, and usually how many, because, you know, Turn this off. Depending on the how the floor is designed and where the bass shaker is located, it would, I mean, a single one. So you got arrays of bass shakers or such, and you test each one, and it will give, depending on the frequencies, the sine wave tones, going through all the sine wave tones. Oh gosh, blimey, it really is. It is like crunching a lot of numbers, a lot of frequency numbers, the voltage levels. So if if I'm on a bus, I know where the engine's located. I know pretty much how the vibration is traveling mechanically and acoustically. I need to get a diagram of one of these typical buses that I go on travel occasionally on, and get a complete schematic on the. They might build, of course, there'll be design of the acoustical, because every vehicles are usually put in anechoic chambers, and there's a lot of data on stuff that sometimes we wouldn't even think about um, questioning, but there is information out there. So if I wanted to find out the acoustical mechanical properties of a certain bus, there will be data. um, there'll be data out there somewhere, PDF file or such or whatever. Um, so I could see how the whole bus is designed, where the engine's located, and how the mechanical vibration resonates through the bus, and plus everything else, like when it's in motion, because they have these simulators where they have it in a room, and it's like something that's on the floor, and it rotates, and so they can test, probably, you know under ideal conditions, sort of thing. And then of course they got to put it on a test track or such, and test it there, and see how the stabilities and such, and when it's turning, and how many degrees, because if it's got a tolerance, I believe, that it could only go to so much. Otherwise, if it hit a point, it could, boom, a double decker could topple over, lose its counterbalance. Um, so it's, gosh, it's a why am I trying to take something like that from the real world and try and put these formulas in the room for? Because I believe that the system should, or well, it's got to have a limit for safety. You go a little bit too over the limit, and then it's going to be unpleasant. But then sometimes it can be that way on a bus. The vibration and the resonance frequencies and such could be. Um, I think most people take it quite well. Sometimes, it's the same if you go on a roller coaster, but that has a different sort of. I could go and look for specifications on that. Um, but I just want to get right down to it. It's just designing something into a room, and not just rushing it, and just designing it very carefully and thinking. Uh, hmm, So much frequency sound that you can, yes. And where speakers are located, typically located, and what happens on the screen, what is mixed on a dub stage to where the screen is on a dub stage to where the speakers are behind the screen located in a barrier wall. What are they doing on the dove stage? How much percentage is felt and how much percentage is heard? Is it 50-50 or is it 80-20 or whatever? You know, you hear 80% of it on your ears and you're only feeling about 20% of it. You know what I mean? How much of it? You want to get the whole program of the reproduction. Reproduction. I think there's just so many complexities involved, and formulating these complexities, and so that everything soundtrack, when it's repeatable. Of course, um, when changing frequencies or adding a little gain or subtracting some, you know, yeah, that's a bit of a what's it, you know. Um, hmm. I mean, films can be boring. I mean, they are. I mean, Hollywood's getting boring, and I think less and less now. People just don't care about it now. It's lost it's lost its man. It's lost its way. um, I think very few people probably don't care much about this much now. I won't miss it, believe me. I mean, well, it'll still be in the room or whatever. It's just laying, just idle, switched off and idle and doing nothing. Um, it's interesting sometimes what you can do with a tiny little speaker like this. I still can't understand why it won't talk with the. Is it turn on? Blimey, still got a little bit of voltage left in it. I'm not sure how much. Chakakoo. Um, yeah, it's got a little bit of voltage left. It hasn't been used in months. I just can't think. Something overrided. Something overrided this little speaker, and on the Bluetooth or whatever. I'm not sure if it's in the main computer, or the laptop, or the phone. But something's overrided, and it just won't. It won't connect. It, yeah. Maybe if I buy another one, because these are pretty cheap. These little JBL uh, Go speaker things, but it's interesting. I can hold it in my hand. It's like the Coca-Cola song. I can Hold it in my hand and feel the bass. And that's it. You're feeling it in your hand and you feel the frequencies and such, yeah? And so if I just put it down somewhere, then I won't because it's not coupled. I'm not holding it in my hand and it's coupled. Um, because the mind can work out the the directional XYZ and such. Can work out where the feel of it. Um, I don't think that really matters if it's in outer space. There's no up, there's no down, side to side, back to front, whatever. It's complete weightless. So if sound was possible, even though diabolically in movies, all these different reverberating bass sounds you hear with living whatever it is in space. Oh my goodness. Um, it just needs clouds and a blue atmosphere, sky, and then you think, oh, right, it makes sense now. But when it's like, again, it's like if you're on a spaceship, you should, if it's got mechanical vibration feel through the propulsion system or whatever the other things there are, then you would feel it. You'd hear it and feel it. So when you're walking around, you can feel it going through you because you're coupled to the surface. You know, it's like trying to get the Jaws shark. Eating that guy in Jaws 3. Where that guy goes hunting for the shark. Um, in And then the shark comes out and he's chewing on the guy and he gets in. It's pretty cringeworthy, the whole thing. It's like, yeah. But you think, how do you listen to the mono matrix surround signal and the signal across the LCR, and maybe the base extension, and looking at the frequencies, and you want this sound or feel to go through the seating area and kind of feel like the audience is being chewed up but surviving Jaws, Bruce the shark. um, hmm. uh, so if you're on a roller coaster and you're going through a roller coaster, yeah, crikey. Just feeling air. That's all I'm doing. I'm just feeling mostly air coming at me. Your hair's moving because you're pushing through air and feeling the rail track. You're feeling the track and the wheel things on the track. You're hearing it and feeling it. You automatically say, "I'm on a roller coaster," I guess. There was a sound I heard the other day. I haven't heard it in a few years. And it was like, I mean, it was bloody loud. It was outside. I couldn't actually see it. But I thought, oh, right. It's that flamethrower thing. and I don't know if they're burning or doing markings on the road surface outside. I'll probably see when I go outside. Maybe tomorrow when I go out, maybe fish and chip or such. I'll probably notice something. It was a few years ago, and it was at night time, I think, and they were using this flamethrower and they're doing some road surfacing or such adjustment. And it's very loud. It's a certain frequency range, but it is very loud. Um, I think I got a video of it as well. Flamethrower on the road because it's like a flamethrower. Because I asked the guy if he could do a demo, and he did a little demo, and it's just like a flamethrower. Um, hmm. So if you actually were holding it, yeah, you're gonna feel some sort of you're gonna feel it, the the mechanical side of it. Well, when you got Ripley running around with a flamethrower, um, if a flamethrower was coming at you, you're gonna be Burger Kinged, flame grilled. Um, um, but if it was just like something else that's blasted, like, oh, I suppose air, being blasted out, you'd feel this uniform air blasted over you, you know. That'd be interesting sort of thing. But when you hear it in aliens, mostly, um, you get a sense of it, but there's still a little bit that you just hear. But there's a little, you got to go a little bit lower down and checking the frequency so you get a bit more of the feel. But that whole thing is very would be organic in a way. It's going to spread and out in a certain way, and it's something you can't really reproduce entirely, I don't think. Um, because some of the energy is gonna get weak, and then you're gonna think, well, um, the speaker's gonna go so loud. You want safety margin. You don't want too loud because don't want to hurt your ears. So you wanna, yeah, the sound, the pressure is going this way, or might go that way. It depends on what you see on screen. Where the camera angles are changing. Otherwise, if you're actually holding the thing and using it, it's in front of you, and whatever is blasted out is going outward, away from you, going, da, 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 da. Yeah. Hmm. So if I got bass frequency generating one of the speakers, how much of it do I feel? And then, okay, turn on the bass shaker, turn the speaker off, or keep the speaker on, and then generate the sine wave on the bass shaker. And it's like, oh yeah, I can feel that. All right, okay, go to the next sine wave tone, and the next, and the next, and how much do I feel? And how much do I hear? How much do I hear it on the speaker, but how much of it do I feel? So I hear that much on the speaker and I feel about that much. I want it a little bit. So calculating it, making sure that the voltage level going to the speaker and the voltage level going to the bass shaker is the same voltage. So that's easy to check with a voltmeter. So I got 2 voltmeters. That speaker's generating at this voltage, at that sine wave. It's going out because the speaker enclosure box and such is going to magnify some of that sound. Boom. And how much of it is felt, that depends on the room and how it's coupled within the room. If it's not coupled very well, then you're not going to feel much of it. Just like, say, a bus engine and trying to isolate it, to decouple it. So well, how do you totally decouple an engine that weighs pretty heavy and use a force field around it so it's floating? Well, maybe not. Maybe not now, because that energy would be a ludicrous amount of energy to do that sort of thing, to suspend the engine, and then how the rest of it all bloody connect. It's got to be, anyway, it makes no sense. Um, um, hmm. It's interesting. Fabrics, bass frequencies can travel through, you know, fabric. Really. Um, it's like if you lay on the bed and you're moving your feet around on one end, and you got your ear down on one end of the mattress. It's like you can hear the vibration. The sound just travels through it. Now, if that mattress was decoupled or separated on one end, and it's not joined, and it's just separated, and you can hear your feet still making a sound on, but you wouldn't hear it on so it's like a piece of wood, and you got a bass shaker on one end of the piece of wood and the vibration track, and then you separate the wood, you separate it, and then you can only you could probably still maybe hear the bass shaker at a tiny level, but the idea is that you're supposed to feel it. But if that bass shaker were, well, it's just like someone doing a DIY bass shaker by just taking an ordinary bass speaker and reconstructing the speaker, and so it behaves in the same way as a bass transducer shaker. Um, hmm. You want to get the want to get as much as the feel. And how do you define the feel? I mean, like when you have an upset tummy. Um, Depending on what type of upset tummy that is, and then you say how you're feeling. One person's not going to care a bit, unless, of course, they happen to be having the same issue. Um, and that would only come from, say, if you eat something from a certain source, and it gives you both the same. Yeah. Um, hmm. feel? Hmm. Hmm. I mean, what would a Vulcan neck pinch feel like? I don't know. Maybe I'll try it. Uh, hmm, no, it just feels like my fingers pressing against them. That's it. Anyway, um, do you feel a Vulcan neck pinch in the same way? You know, you see it on screen and you think, do you feel it on your neck? um, I think if the audience was feeling that, I think they'd all be rendered unconscious. Um, oh, it's so complicated. All this bass and frequencies. It is so complicated. So you don't want the sound system to have distortion, or buzzing or rattling noises, because that's just not on the soundtrack, unless of course it depends on what scene or what it is, and then they put it in to give us an effect. um but there's still a lot more, like how a room is done, how a room is designed. I'm talking, they there is not much differences between the home, a cinema, and a dubbing stage. There is not much difference. They're just larger rooms, but the seating arrangement is pretty much the same. Seating goes on the floor surface. Well, unless they started putting seating, mounting it on the side of the walls a little high up and sort of thing. Now that'd be interesting. Or um, maybe on the floor, but a little bit more tightly coupled with the wall surface, so that depending on what scene is going on in the two-dimensional image that's on the screen, and so if I lean against the wall, I should feel the vibration in a different way, a different experience. Because that's what I notice on the bus. I can sit in the seat like this, or I can sit and lean against the side of the bus, and I feel a different experience, because of the way the vibration mechanically is traveling through the vehicle. Um, mm, yeah, yeah. I saw this other thing the other day. The was it last night? I think wasn't wasn't really exhilarating. It's pretty boring. Yeah, I was expecting. Um, yeah, I kind of felt that it, this guy's got this home theater, and he's bragging about, like, he's got a big one in his house. Um, I kind of doubt that. He just mainly just goes into a small shed that you couldn't even swing a cat around in. I've been in sheds. I know what size they are, but really, why do people put home theatres in sheds? Hmm, it's not too bad, depending on how which way you design it. Um, because the you because you'd be able to get a nice feel. But it depends on how the speakers are coupled to the because still a speaker is in a box, but if you just have component, yeah, like say you build a frame and such, and then you get the components, and then you just design those components so that the magnet is coupled with the frame, so that it will put a bit of vibration through the frame, and then it depends on how far around that frame in the is felt, um, and then how many other speakers are all designed in more or less the same way, but they get different signals, from the source, and how much of it is felt. And then those speakers thing, they're only going to be directional, and so yeah, and then you need something else. You need something else. Gosh, it's bloody complicated. And yet it's still speakers that are only over here and above, and um, there's still this sound where you can't have it moving literally around your head this close. It's just not possible. Um, Not unless you put speakers that are close near to you, and then you got sound moving around. But then you just look at it and you think that looks intimidating. Um, most people still, with their home theatres and their ego, can't grasp the reality of real world sound versus something that's manufactured, fabricated on a dubbing stage or mixing room, whatever, and speakers are just placed around. That's not how we hear most of the sound, because you can fool the listener, or the mixer could fool himself by just manipulating and making it sound like it's distant, or it's got, it hasn't really got any really spatial spatialness to it. Speakers are still in you know, a speaker is not a living thing. It's in it. It's a piece of wood or MDF with a bloody speaker driver in it. It's just nothing more than an immaterial piece of electronics at the end of the day. Um, that's limited. Anyway, but I think still the idea of put speakers parallel ceiling floor, so that you can mix sound, so that you could get phantom sound images that they seem like they are around your ears or pretty close, but you know where they're coming from, but it's manipulating the frequency, and um but it wouldn't have a solid presence, like someone touching you and you feel a solid presence of, um because if that's done in bass, but it won't be correct, because it'll be too loud, to feel, You do that, and it's very gentle and it's very soft. It's just a feel. What's the other word for it? I think there's a word out there somewhere in the dictionary. Dictionaries, wow, it's thousands of pages. Um, Kinetic? Is it kinetic energy? Um, there's a lot of things in voodoo science. um, that could be toyed around with. And you think you come upon something by accident, by discovering some different solution. I'm getting very meditated at the moment. I'm very relaxed. Um, I really do need to get a couple of hours of kip, but I'll probably get that when my delivery arrives, and then get everything, and then I'll shut off, and I'm just going to meditate the ideas of what I'm trying to think. Hmm. Bass frequency comes out from the speaker, but you can make that bass frequency tonally sound um, a little bit more different. It's like squeezing the juice out of an orange. Just get a little bit more, you get one frequency, and you go, it's like a speaker versus a bass shaker. And it's like, yeah, it makes sense. It's like the speaker, even though it's over there in the room and the bass shaker's near, that's just a single bass shaker in most cases. Unless it's multitude of bass shakers, like say go in the floor. One bass shaker is going to give so much percentage of what they call it, footprint or radiation, the signal radiating out, depending on what bass frequencies and such, um, or rather what frequencies and the amplitude level. And you notice, okay, it only goes out so many inches. So you got the epicenter, or you got the main part of the bass shaker, the main part of the bass shaker, and the rest of the signal is spreading out just a few inches away in a radius, circle or a radius, out a radius. And then you got to add another bass shaker, so it's I suppose you could put them side by side, or put the next one just a few inches spaced apart. But it's sort of like I say, the surfacing. Is it going to give the same feel? Is it going to give it the same feel? So, um, depending on the wooden frame, sorry, the the wooden frame. Then you got the other part of the surface on top of it, and then you got the bass shakers underneath. And I think the framework is going to be something where some of the bass signal, sorry, some of the sine wave low frequencies will probably transmit through, and some probably won't transmit through very well because of the distancing. And it's a lot of calculation. It's a lot of calculation. Like when I do that, I can feel bass, something mechanical. Hmm. But only I can feel that. Hmm. I mean, when these this guy on this what's it? I can't tell whether he's legit or something because I can't trust him. um, he goes on about all this bass and bass and bass. Oh god. Otherwise, when we walk around, we're producing bass. It's low frequencies we're producing, but you can always tell when someone's doing it normal, and then when someone you hear something like sounds like someone's doing something on purpose, jumping around and just being a jackass. um, mm, and that does a certain low frequency signature. Um, there's just so much to it. What you see on the screen, and then what is mixed, and how much of it is because are they feeling it all on the dubbing stage? Are they really? Because I just there's all these. I don't know if any of these real like THX dub stages exist anymore, and they don't tell you enough. They don't tell you. They're not being forward and honest and transparent. They try and keep it like it's a bloody secret. But yeah, um, it's like these cans. They're all designed the same way. This can, and this can. They're all the same design. They just got different name on it, different flavor. Name, different flavor. Kind of like. Does a film, does a soundtrack have a flavor? Hmm. Well, that'd be interesting to explore. Does a soundtrack have a flavor? I have to really give that some meditation. Because when I'm sleeping, I'm like over this way and I'm meditating the frequencies going this way and that way, and what sine wave tone, what I would probably feel, what I won't feel. because a bass shaker won't give you every bass, because as you go from 50 hertz to 50 point, was it 50 and 50 point, 50, oh gosh, before it gets to 50, yeah, it's got to go 50 and 50 50 0 5, and then 50 51, 51 0 5, 52, and there's a decimal point between, but it's a 5, isn't it? What about 50 0.1, 50.02, 50.03? um REW won't do, because there will, there are those frequencies. They're there. Um, that's what I've noticed. Until you get up to, um, some of the upper higher frequencies, and then you get more slight, decimal points. Yeah, so you got 1 hertz, and then you'd got, well, actually, you got 0, and then you go 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, and such, until you get up to 1 hertz, and then so on and so on and so on and so on. Is there a sound generator where I can put frequencies at 0 decimal? Sorry, W won't do it on the lower lows. Can I do that on? No, I don't think I can even do that on even true RTA. Because there will be slight, tiny difference in the feel of the frequency. Very tiny, subtle, tiny, subtle. Wonder if I can make a can into a bass shaker. Guess it's possible. You look at some of these bass shakers, right? Which one is it? I think it's the oh crikey, which ones are they called? Oh, there's so many of them. It's not the Clark sensors. I think it's the butt kicker. It's sort of shaped similar to a can. It's got a similar sort of shape. It's a little similar. So what if you have one of these? You cut it, and though the actual material itself is pretty flimsy, so you can break it easily. But if you were to handle it sort of so in a way that you could put a coil, a magnetic coil thing, such like a piston. So because they're like a piston, so they're moving up and down, aren't they? And fit it inside one of these cans. That would be interesting. And then you could just have something like, and then it's going to have a bit of weight to it, bit heavier than the actual liquid drink that would be in it. And then you can attach it by using, I don't know, Velcro. Um, so so it goes on the side and on the other surface, and you attach it with some very strong Velcro, so it attaches to the surface of whatever. Yeah, that'd be great, and make the base shakers in the size of the can for about. Oh, let's be reasonable. How about £1? Yeah, £1. Yeah, can you imagine base shakers in a can? £1. Wow, they'll sell like hotcakes. They would. They would definitely sell like hotcakes. That's when you make so they all these base shakers have got a certain price on the materials that are involved to make the unit. And you got these other ones with their claim that they go down to these low, they can reproduce or they can produce um, when generated with low frequency infrasonic frequency, so that you would feel a kind of shaking vibration effect. But they got this diabolical price tag on the damn thing. I don't understand it. And you got another sign, and you look at. I don't know. Is it? It's like going into frequencies that we could probably notice in reality sometimes, but we don't have test equipment around and thinking, oh wow, there's some infrasonic in this. Yeah, wow, let's explore it. But no, it's you go on a vehicle or such. There's infrasonics in vehicles, in a vehicle, in a car, a bus. There are infrasonic frequencies present, but unless you've got test equipment analyzing, um, and then if you could subtract um, some of that infrasonic, which would be, I wouldn't say maybe impossible, but maybe minimize. And then would you place and then have this repeated under scientific condition so that you notice the infrasonic field and then you subtract it and then you think, yes, something missing. So you want the whole of it all there. And they don't put the whole of it there in these mixes. Depending on what it is. And the whole sub LFE thing. Or maybe the whole base thing. There's I mean, it's like, do you need a D-box seat so that the seat is vibrating stupid, Um, and it won't give the same feel like, if you're in a vehicle. Um, you're not going to get the inertia. I don't think you'll get that inertia effect. It'd be just the seat just bobbing up and down, or there you go, a little bit but um, it wouldn't be enough now, would it, to say you need a seatbelt because it's gonna feel like that it's gonna throw you out of the seat and you're gonna go forward and you're gonna have an injury. Because sometimes that can happen on a bus, but very, very, oh gosh, be very rare. Unless the bus did an emergency stop, suddenly did an emergency stop, you'd probably go forward. It's still a vehicle, and you still get inertia. Um, but you don't want to be messing on the road with a 25-ton bus now, do you? Unless you want to get your car crumbled. Um, uh, just trying to think. I do a lot of thinking. It's exhausting. Oh, yeah, yeah. There's so much variables into this, which can be days, weeks, months. It's like when one that kind of idled and dreamt of like how to get from point A to point B up there. I jump up and I come back down. Boom. Feel a little jolt in your bones and such. You feel a little jolt. And you think, what's holding me down? And you just wander on that for a long time until you give it a name. You give it a name. You call it gravity. It's just a name. And then everyone recognizes that name and associate that name with like, yeah, it's holding me down. Gravity. And you got a base shaker and a piston that's moving. Depending on which way you have the base shaker, isn't it? Yeah. Would a base shaker have a different feel or sensation with it being in a vertical position or diagonal or horizontal, or you turn it. Just make sure I get the liquid out. There's still a little bit more in there. You have it upside down, because the way the piston is moving. It's the same with a speaker, the bass cone, and it's in a vertical position in the enclosure, or it could be upside down, depending if it's in a box for a downward firing sub bass speaker. Does a downward have better sound than an upward? Why not try putting taking the these designs? Why not just get a bass driver, design it so that the wooden floor, so when it goes into the floor, the magnet is coupled with the frame, and so that the vibration, you get an extra vibration traveling through it. Depending on how much of it, because it's very difficult to tell. Then you'd have to have a room with. You'd have to have two versions of it. One where it's not coupled, and one where it is coupled. So you have to have two versions. You got wooden frame, but the in one room you got the wooden frame, but the speaker It's fitted into the floor, but the magnet won't be coupled with the speaker. The wooden frame won't be coupled with the magnet. And so you have two rooms, one where it's coupled and one where it's decoupled. So you can generate something and then notice, oh yeah, got a bit of feel there and not much there, but it's still with the frame on the speaker is still connected to but you only get so much vibration through the frame, around the outer part of the ridge of the rim on the speaker. You only get so much vibration that's traveling out that direction, but you get more motor vibration from the magnet area because the way the piston is thing is moving. Would you get a little bit more of a bass shaker if it were? I'm just trying to think on percentages and such. What is how much percentage is felt and how much is not felt on a bass shaker? Oh. Yeah. You want to maximize the efficiency as best as the design for the design. You want to maximize so say when you use a bass shaker and you're holding it in your hand, and the hand is going to be pretty good source for testing, until you go into the other tests. And then you're watching the voltage level going into the bass shaker with the sine wave tone. So you generate the sine wave tone, you look at the voltage level, how much you can feel. On the motion, on the coil in the bass shaker moving. And then you get to a certain point and then it becomes audible, because bass shakers are audible. Depending on how the whole thing is put together, really, because you could go with lots of bass shakers, or you're listening to the bass shaker in a certain way, where you're generating these. It's like when you have headphones on and you generate a sine wave tone. What's the lowest level that you can audibly hear? And if I could hear that low tone, that very low, oh gosh, SBL level, and if I had a bass shaker, yeah, there's also the other things, the efficiency, the headphone sensitivity, the bass transducer, sensitivity. Um, it, they'll have a certain kind of sensitivity. Because bass shakers could be, you can generate 1 kilohertz into it and you can hear it. Though it sounds very kind of ringing, sound very well, depending on what type of bass shaker it is. Not sure about the oh gosh, those Clark's sensors or whatever they're called. They look like a frisbee. Yeah, they look like a kind of circular hub, um, or a frisbee. I'm not sure what their tonal characteristics are kind of like. I don't fancy buying one of those because their prices are usually about 500. Pretty pricey, I think, compared to other transducers that are a bit cheaper. Yeah, so you get this kind of ringing sound on these Daytons or Aura, I think they're called. They're essentially the same unit. They just got a different, just a vague slight difference in their design cosmetically, and just got a different name on it. And essentially, you look at them and think they look like the same thing. They just rebranded the item, such, or like you see, maybe clone versions, copycat versions. Yeah, there's a lot of copycat things around sometimes, clones. Had an aerial one time. It looked like, what do you call them? Sigma 4 antennas, and then made by Avanti. They're about 30-foot antenna. And then there's another one called a Comtel. And when you look at it from a distance, they look side by side identical until you get up close, and then you look at them, and you notice that the some of the design is a little different, but generally it's got a similar principle. In it's just, yeah. So if you if I were to, I don't know, maybe if I could get hold of a second hand Clark bass transducer, because there's no way I'm paying for a brand new one, not at the stupid prices they're selling them at. And I could do a A/B comparison. As well as, what's the weight of the unit versus, and how easy is each one to install into um awkward yeah positions. Yeah, it's very difficult finding words to Um, yeah. See, I want the frequencies to go. I want them to move, not move. I mean, to have. Well, could I notice a base shaker if it was in an array, or like a line, or a cluster? A cluster is better, I think. Cluster is better. The more, yeah. So depending on the floor design and the amount of them, would they give a earthquake effect? I mean, what is an earthquake effect? It's under the ground, many miles under, releasing a humongous amount of energy. That's purpose is to conflict unimaginable amount of bloody structural damage. That's the purpose of an earthquake. Not that it says, "Hey, today I'm earthquake and I'm gonna turn everything upside down." Um, Earthquakes are just like having a like a bad vindaloo Indian curry or something, and then you got the shits, and you got your tummy going, oh, and you got the shits, you got, every now and then you fart in, and it's terrible. You got this um amount of energy, and you just want to flush it out your system. And that's kind of like an earthquake. It's like it builds up somewhere, the tension and the stresses of the tectonic plates. That's just the word that's made up. The ground surface moving and shifting, because the Earth is gradually moving and shifting, and land formation will gradually change. um, Very subtly, very subtle. If you leapfrog forward in a time machine 1 million years and then looked at the land formation, it's going to be a little bit different. There's going to be a dramatic shift in the change in the surface. It's amazing, isn't it? I wonder, does that happen on Mars? Come on, Cohagen, don't bullshit me. Give these people air. Does it change on Mars? Does it? I'd have to Google that. Not that I'm interested, or makes any difference here. Mars is millions of miles away out that way, so it's not going to make much difference to any one of us. But does it? Does it? Does it? It should. Yeah. Does Mars have a planet quakes or Mars quakes? Mars quakes. Next, they'll be making a bloody ice cream. Mars quake ice cream. Oh dear. Oh dear, the things you can come up with. I've got to take my medication. It's just gone past my medication time. Whoa. Oh. Mars quake. Oh dear, what next? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Come on, give these people Mars quake. Mars days of work, resting, earthquake play, Mars quake play. I think if you eat enough Mars bars, you'll probably have an upset tummy. I mean, it's not exactly. Yeah, it's just a teeny snack thing, isn't it? A Mars bar. Um, Actually, the Mars bar ice cream is kind of nice. That's all it is, really. Oh dear. Mm. Oh. 2 hours. I've been ranting for 2 hours. How do I do it? How do I do it? I got to maybe question and ask myself that. Um. hmm. So you just browse through the video, jump through it a little bit, you're looking for the answers and all this, aren't you? I know you are. I know you are. But, you know, everyone that just buys all these sub bass speakers and just, pressurizing. Yeah, okay. You can pressurize, okay. I couldn't care less. But are you getting a lot of the mechanical vibration feel? Um, Probably in for a big whole disappointment, you know, because you could go through those sine wave tones and you're gonna think, I can't really feel that. I can hear it, but I can't really feel it. Yeah. Maybe if you put all these sub bass transducers, all these like overrated SDS or whatever else there is out there, and you just stick it underneath the floor. Or if you got a basement, why not put the home cinema room, but on the first floor, on the ground floor? Yeah, because you got the ground floor, then you got the first floor, typical in a house, and then you got the basement, and put the subs in the basement. Just stuff a load of them in, and so that you get this vibe. But then you're gonna have a whole lot of other problems. You're gonna hear rattles and buzz noises, and that's just not part of the soundtrack. And so it doesn't quite work very well now, does it? It'd be like, say, if you had a very large size piston voice coil sort of thing. So it's literally, well, might as well just get some. What's the simplest, quickest? Hydraulics. Hydraulics. So your floor is just on you got a hydraulic system literally underneath. It's just going to move. It's just going to tilt it a little bit and move it up and down and do different shadowings and uh, yeah, yeah, that'd be good, especially when going. So if you got a scene in a movie and it's in a bus, yeah, and such, or a car, and it's heading towards a speed bump at full speed. Oh god. Oh, you definitely need to wear some seat belts. I think in the real thing, you're gonna bump your head on the roof of the vehicle because that's gonna give you a bit, throw you up a little bit, sort of thing, with the kind of an elastic, springy vibration. Um, yeah, you definitely need to wear a seatbelt. But you still wouldn't be able to get the 100% inertia. Um, but being on what do you call it? Hydraulic. Yeah, it could tilt so far, you know. So when you're watching the screen and you can feel the whole floor thing tilting and roll, this way, that way, and but hydraulics, are they really fast responding to, the only other thing it wouldn't go to do is do a complete 180 or a complete 180 roll. I don't think you want to do that. You definitely have to wear seat belts. Oh yeah, what's those gyros? That's it, gyros. I think they have them in NASA, don't they? Gyros. So for when you trying to figure out the orientation that you're in. A gyrosphere. So that's what they call them, gyrosphere, I think. I think that's taken, you don't want a gyrosphere if you're watching Titanic when the bloody ship's sinking now, do you? Nah, no, I don't think so. Um, yeah. Um, yeah, might as well. Yeah, gyrospheres. I'd have to look into that. I've seen pictures. I've seen some videos of gyrospheres. Some of those archival footages that NASA train pilots in a gyrosphere. Yeah. Yeah. Subbase has got a lot of things there to piss and mess around and play with when you're bored with your rubbish content Kaleido movie or your physical boring 4K disc, and your Atmos is about as subtle as a bloody Big Mac with disgusting French fries. Why do people buy that garbage? It is, I mean, Burger King's no better, but at least a Burger King has got a better presentation in the flipping preparing of the flipping. Yeah, and a McDonald's just seems like disgusting slop. And oh dear, you might as well pay just a little, maybe just a fraction more, tiny fraction, for a Burger King. Yeah. Hmm. I mean, does a sub bass speaker, can a sub bass speaker, an SVS speaker, can it be sloppy or tight bass? What's all this, you know, people talk about, oh, the bass is tight and all this. Is there a little bit more research into that? Like, say, okay, you take not the SBS, well, I think you can make a frame or a wooden extension MDF to take an SVS subdriver out and then fit it into a JBL cinema enclosure box. Um, well, I wouldn't say it's a cinema enclosure box, it's a PA enclosure box or whatever. So you take, and then do this Pepsi challenge, to see whether there's tightness. It's probably just the way the motor thing, is designed. But tight? I don't know. Tight? What's that mean? 'Cause it sounds like getting shafted by Roger. And you don't want to get shafted by Roger now. Roger is not gonna you know, no, you don't want to get shafted by Roger. Roger, over and out, over and done, underdone. No, 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 Rogering. Tight. uh, um, it sounds pretty kinky, an SBS they. Oh yeah, our sub base is tight, tight. I don't know. I know an SBS won't fit in my room. Plus the overrated price on the damn thing. Yeah, if they lowered the price by at least there are other subs out there or boxes. What are those ones? Mono prices. Why do they call it mono price? Mono. Like mono? Like mono? Yeah. Monolith, I think it is, a monolith. Is that like 2001? Is it? It's squares and are all to the exact same scale percentage, and its surface is frequency response is totally smooth. Yeah, right. Yeah, you got all these big boxes. You put them in a room, and those big boxes are so many inches away from the front of from the wall surface. Doesn't matter where in the room. When they're in an auditorium, usually typically the front row seating's at least 10 to, oh no, more than that. I think, well, it depends, could be 15, 20 feet, and depending on the size of the screen. And the front row is at least, say, 15 feet away. But in a home, it's a lot shorter distance, and that's probably why the frequencies just look crap in the room. Ideally, the frequency is ideal in the amplification electronically to the actual speaker driver until it reaches out into the rest of the room, and then it starts looking like crap because we're too close to the damn things. You stand at the back of the room and it sounds boomy, and it's like, well, if it sounds boomy, then turn it down a little bit, because usually it's like when you're on a bus and the bus comes to a bus stop and the engine's pitch changes from a um, to a wum, 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 wum sound, and it's usually peaking 35, 36 hertz frequency, typically on a bus. And you hear that pressure on your ears, depending on what SBL level. Yeah, a lot of you people with your home theaters, you think you got your home theater, like, yeah, you're cool and all that. Yeah, you're not cool, because you don't talk about coolness. You don't talk about coolness now, do you? You know, you don't compare the real world or reality even when you're walking around the room. It's just, I know, I get it. It's an ego. It's an ego issue. Um, oh gosh, seek professional help and ask a doctor why you got these frequency knolls. Yeah, give you medication. Take this prescription medication, and don't worry about it. Maybe if the sub was, well, yeah, located right in the middle of the room. So be whether it in the floor and the ceiling parallel. But that doesn't mean the frequency that goes out then spreads out into the room is going to be. I'd have to look on the Room EQ Wizard's room simulator, see what the frequency looks like. Maybe start from there and then work outwards. Because I think some of the um, low frequencies, you think, oh, you want to feel 20 hertz sine wave. I mean, what does that actually feel like, And it should be felt and audibly when you hear it. You want to hear it in its most absolute uniform. No, not uniform. The actual generated fundamental frequency. Because depending on you want the cone to move at a certain movement, and then of course you add a second one, and then and it's going at the same level, same voltage level. So you check it with a voltmeter with the amplifier, because each amplifier might have a slight difference. Not to mention the speaker as well with the impedance, and there might be slight, you get them to go more or less the same, and then the SPL level will go up a couple of dB, few dB or so, and then you just add another and another, and the SPL level will go up and up and up. That fundamental tone, or the cluster of the speakers, they shouldn't generate, or so they shouldn't produce any harmonic, not unless you start turning the gain levels up higher and higher and higher until eventually harmonic frequencies start appearing on the RTA, and you can audibly hear something shifting up that sounds like it's at 25 or 30 hertz frequency when it really isn't. You can't EQ that frequency out. You could put a low pass filter on the actual drivers, like a little notch filter or such, if you're clever, and it will filter it. But when an actual fundamental frequency plays on that actual, it's going to be down a little bit. So you got to take it very carefully so that your sub bass, when generating 20 hertz, it just literally got this nice, and then when you go up to the next sine wave tone and the next and the next, they're gonna go. You got to scale those levels so that they stay at the same. Just so many ways to do it. You could have the frequencies on the other frequencies going upward. So they kind of climbing upward. They're ascending upward, but you want them to come down, because generating it on an RTA analyzer, the tones are all the same level. And if you observing very carefully the voltage level on a voltmeter, they should they should stay relatively the same voltage level. Just the difference in the tones becoming more audible to our hearing, because our hearing range is going to roll off on the low until eventually there's something there biologically that says we can't hear that frequency because it's just outside of our hearing range and we can only perceive the vibration, whether you're touching it airborne wise. It's got to sound bloody natural, like a volcano eruption. But how many people hear an actual, or well, what does it sound like? Is it? Do you notice the low end on the vibration, or the low end on the eruption of the volcano? Or is it the upper or the middle upper part of the frequency that we notice? And you perceive the rest of the sound wave many seconds later. I don't know. I haven't a clue. I haven't been that close to a volcano. I just hear them in these movies, and they always sound different. I mean, do normally all volcanoes have similar sound signature when erupting? It's like guns in movies. I hate fucking guns. I really do. So if there was a Beretta, like they typically show in these bloody mindless movies, some character's got a Beretta. Is that they always sound or feel kind of a little bit different on the sound mixing? And I'm thinking, is it the environment that they're placed in that makes them sound different? Yeah. So you go back so many, back to the 1980s, the Beretta, when that shows up in Lethal Weapon movie or Die Hard. Oh yeah, because it's the same. Story script thing written by the guy. The character that wrote the characters and that. And it's like, oh yeah, we got to use a Beretta. Oh, for crying out loud! And then you see another movie that's got nothing in common with the other movies, with the script writer or the story written by, and someone's using a Beretta again. Oh, for crying! And they always sound different. They should be similarly the same, but placed in not the same boring cliche. They should be recorded in an actual environment. So if they spend all these millions, they should spend 50. I really don't give a shit about fucking movies. I really don't. But they should. They should use the same. They should use something like a. Ugh, that tasted horrible. Ugh, that tasted a bit stale. It's only a couple of hours. Ugh. Ugh. Still got a bit of fruit juice flavour in this one. Residue. I need to clean the bottle out a little bit better, and then put pure water back into it, because it's got a bit of residue of the what do you call it? Squash drink. Um, Yeah, it always has that problem there with the sound. You'd be surprised how much of the bass, the bass, the bass, the bass that you feel it, you know what I mean? um, how low does it go? Well, to the point where you can't hear it. You can only, yeah, so it feels like a water wave, like some sort of water wave moving. Hmm. Yeah, so immersed or submersed. Yeah, because it's subs, isn't it? Subs. Yeah, we're talking about sub bass frequencies. Know what I mean? And yeah, you got to be not immersed, but submersed, because it's a sub, isn't it? Down Periscope. um, yeah, so it'd be a wave, wouldn't it? Because when I noticed the sine wave generating on very low infrasonic frequencies, the SBL usually when moving around with the meter or the RTA microphone moving around the room, it generally stays within a few dB. It hardly deviates. Um, I'll probably have to do another test of that because I'm bored. You know what I mean? You get bored with your home theatre sometimes, and you know what I mean. You just generate some sine wave tones. Explore it. Know what I mean? And then you think, oh yeah, I think I'll have it at this frequency range on these subs, and then the other subs that I got, I'll let them generate a different range in the low frequencies with them, and then set the. Well, the problem with these, see, the problem with these crappy active subs like SVS, it is a little bit over fucking rated. I would not really bother wasting my time with these stupid sub bass speakers that they're selling, on the market. Because usually the crossover frequencies are going to be prefixed. You can't make any. They haven't got any adjustment to make DSP adjustment. Not that I've noticed. So they're going to be typically maybe 24 dB octave, maybe 18 dB. It depends. And you want something that's DSP so that you can adjust. If you want a 48 dB crossover frequency, crossover slope, make it so. But on all these crappy subs that they sell on the market, unbelievable. It's like all these crappy speakers they sell. Unbelievable. Why does anyone want to buy these crappy home theater speakers? You wanna if you want to customize the crossover frequencies on it, then you might as well throw the passive crossover in the dustbin and then use a DSP, and then you can tailor what the blooming frequency and think I could just get. It's like squeezing the juice out of an orange. You can just get a little bit more juice out of it. Not a lot, but just a little bit extra. Because you thrown the passive crossover away. Yeah. At the end of the day, a speaker is a speaker. It's the crossover that makes the speaker. And maybe the passive crossover is not to one's taste, or I don't like the sound of it, I think I'll just go with a DSP, because then I can just tailor that speaker and the crossover slope to the room's to the room. Yeah. You got to be very careful you don't trade off too much. You got to make sure you hear all those frequencies, like Captain Kirk. You know what I mean? Captain Kirk. Got to hear all that Star Trek 6 nuances. Know what I mean about the nuances? Yeah, yeah. I know you know what I mean. So you got to, yeah. Mm. 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 Probably be on the move soon. That. Mm. Mm. Yeah, so I'm going to keep. I'm going to ramble. I'm going to ramble on a little bit, ranting and rambling. You know what I mean? How many ways? How many configuration? My goodness, there's lots of configuration. And within lots of configuration, I want to do different kind of formatting so that they would do different sensations. Sensation. Because don't just want to take the bass frequencies from the front channels. That's typically what most people do. They just take the bass frequency from the or the LFE is, when you think of it, it's not much of a big deal, really. LFE. If it's a mono signal, then, and it doesn't seem to, would it actually be better if it were placed in an array in the middle of an auditorium, in the ceiling and in the floor? But yeah, depends on how the floor's got to be designed, or it's this myth with the LFE. You know, that was misleading many moons ago. Like, oh, you can place it anywhere in the room and it does all this. That's not true. We all found out that wasn't true. So where do you put the put it in the middle of the room? Depend on how high the ceiling is, and the ceiling's going to be a bit higher up, and if there's one that's going to be parallel, so the motor driver is in the floor and one in the ceiling. Or typically the floor, if it's a wooden floor with in a room or such, there's probably not going to be much depth for a very large enclosure blocks to go underneath the floor, unless there's some modification, but then where you can take the floorboards up and then you can excavate, dig down a little deep, because it's just ground, it's just earth, so earth underneath the some typical, you can excavate, and then you've got to redesign the floorboards, the floor joists, you've got to redesign, do a slight modification. And then the one in the ceiling, well, obviously you've got another room above it, so that's not a problem if it's a large enclosure box. Yeah, there are those that are, bass, obsessed with bass. Know what I mean? Yeah. Anyway, enough of the bass. I'm going to meditate and do some additional thinking that's a little, oh my goodness, it's like the universe. It's like the expanding universe. Know what I mean? Like black hole subbase. Black hole subbase. Sooty cat. He wants to go deeper into the black hole subbase. Yeah, know what I mean? Pressures of um, um, pressures that are what's the word? It's a fancy word. Anyway, I can't remember what that word is. It's so excruciating. So yeah, unrelenting pressure. Yeah.